go. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. We're still on Signs of Judgment Day. We did actually talk about some of the things that were going to happen on Signs of Judgment Day. We talked about the massive crime that is going to be within the society, and the massive crime to the point that the Prophet ﷺ actually says that people will be killed and the person doesn't even know what they're killed for. And we talked about how the change of discipline is one of the main factors in why people just don't practice patience anymore, don't practice discipline anymore, and can't practice to use social skills to communicate instead of going for killing. So that is really important to recognize. I want you to see one thing is that a lot of times when you see the Signs of Judgment Day, it will talk about behavior, but then it becomes our responsibility to see, well, what is the motive? Now, when we say the Signs of Judgment Day, that doesn't mean that human beings have changed at least in their anatomy. This is not talking about in their body that they had changed. It's that their behavior has changed. And this is extremely important to keep in mind, because the change of behavior, the Prophet ﷺ may not necessarily talk about all the details of the final conclusion that we would get to, which is the kathrat al-haraj, or the killing, or the massive killing that people would engage in. But this is or even killing oneself. So even when we're talking about suicide, and it's really important to keep in mind that when we're speaking about these Signs of Judgment Day, it's going to give us the last level of what it had reached. But that's not the first level. Now, it's your responsibility, especially that we're seeing right now the massive killing, we're seeing the crime rate going up. We could see that correlation between education and crime rate. We could see the correlation between the substances that people are consuming and even the level of crime rate. So whether we're talking about more drugs, whether we're talking about more alcohol, and how it relates to people losing their sober mind, losing their awareness, their conscious mind, and that's basically affecting their behavior and what choices and what decisions they make. Or whether we're talking about even losing their ability to use social skills. Before, people had better social skills and they communicated better. Right now, we're seeing people really just hooked to the different gadgets that they even lost the social skills. So in order to look at yourself, am I going to, God forbid, am I going to be falling within this category? Well, I want you to look at yourself and reevaluate yourself. How many times do you get angry per day? What makes you angry? Is it really worth it? What are the different ways that you can use in order to not get angry? How do you learn from the situation? How do you learn how to evaluate the situation, the society around you? And instead of getting angry and going up from level 1 to level 10 in just seconds, well, you need to evaluate yourself and see, because guess what? If you're at this age and you're getting so angry over probably goggles, or probably maybe your shoes, and if you're just getting so angry in an instant, well, then you need to reevaluate yourself and see, because if you're at this age getting angry that fast, well, that would actually mean that you might even do something worse when you're probably a teenager. If you're starting to hit your brother or your sister when you're 10 years old over probably goggles, are you going to probably use something even more dangerous to harm somebody because of a dispute over a shoe, or a dispute over your pen or paper? So that's why we have to work on our akhlaq. We have to work on our sabr. We have to work on learning how we won't be another number of what the Prophet ﷺ was telling us what Signs of Judgment Day would look like. So we have to make sure that we work our discipline so we won't be part of the signs of Judgment Day that the Prophet ﷺ had actually cautioned us about. So when we're looking at that killing, well, you need to, it starts, how does a person get to the level of actually getting into the killing mode? It really starts with a person being violent in language, violent in behavior, violent even in their relationship and the psychological motives. They're right away impulsive. You know what impulsive means? Impulsive. They're right now, it's like they'll just no control. Their brain tells them they're angry, go hit the person. They'll just basically go and hit the person without even thinking about, well, is this the right thing to do? Without thinking, is this really worth doing such a thing? So that's why when we look at kathrat al-qatl, we need to reevaluate our behavior to make sure that we're actually working on disciplining ourselves before we become another person that is either killed or killing. Because even when we're talking about getting killed, also understand the circumstances that are surrounding you. Learn how to stay out of trouble. If you see that the person in front of you is going fast in their impulsivity, in their anger, well, learn how to stay out of trouble by keeping away from such environments. Such environments, don't be part of it. Learn how to stay away. If you see people, look at the markers. You're seeing them, their voice is going up, their eyes are starting to open, they're starting to yell, they're starting to probably start wanting to move their hands more often and more frequently. Well, that's a red sign that this person is ready to attack. Learn how to look for those red flags to learn how to stay out of trouble. And if you know somebody is constantly having behaviors of impulsivity, of anger, of lacking discipline, don't be a friend with that person. Don't be a friend with that person, because you're putting yourself in an area that is of constant trouble. Simple. Putting yourself in an area of constant trouble actually means you're endangering yourself. Don't put yourself in danger. The most important thing is that, number one, look for the person's deed. Number two, look how they even take care of themselves. Because if this person is probably abusing substances, they're not taking care of their body. They eat whatever. They don't even have a limit to how much they eat. They don't have a limit to what they eat. They don't have a limit to what they consume. They just consume whatever. Number three, their education. I'm not talking about education where school degrees. Yes, they've got a 3.8 GPA on their schooling. I'm not talking about that. We're actually talking about their ilm in Sharia, in learning their deen, in learning about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's number three. Number four is that how they preserve themselves in modesty and even in their chastity. Is this girl constantly looking at guys' pictures or constantly talking about guys? Is this boy actually constantly talking about girls, and etc.? Don't be a friend with this person. They're constantly talking about the other. Number five, how is this person with money? Are they willing to give up their discipline just to get more money? Or it's not just money. Are they willing to give up their discipline just to gain more likes, more compliments, more shares? You don't want this person, because this person is not of value. This person is of fame. This person is of compliment from people. This person is wanting dunya, not akhirah. This is to tell us how we measure the world around us. Number 18, kathratu zalazil. We talked about this before, in where just when you would see on top of the earth the disruption of people's morality, it would basically radiate in having the disruption even in the ecosystem. Even the earth recognizes what people do on its surface. Can you believe that, Malek? Can you believe that the earth, the trees, let's say you're praying, the tree recognizes what you're doing. The earth, the sky recognizes what you're doing. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us about those that were destructed. فَمَا بَكَتْ عَلَيْهِمُ السَّمَاء. The skies didn't even cry on them. What? The sky can actually cry? The sky actually cries? Yes, the tree, to you, it might seem like it's idle. To you, it seems like it's just an object. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells you, actually, the tree has feelings. The tree recognizes. That's why even the earth, when there's so much destruction on earth from people's behaviors, it starts radiating on the earth itself, where you would get more earthquakes, you would get more floods, you would get all those different changes in the ecosystem, where it would actually start bringing in the al-khasf and al-masakh. Al-khasf and al-masakh. So al-khasf is more on earth, whether we're talking about flood, whether we're talking about changes on earth, whether we're talking about more hail, whether we're talking about earthquakes, all of those are khasf. Il-masakh, it relates to people. Il-masakh, whether we're talking about more people born with abnormalities, whether we're talking about people even changing their own creation. Look at this right now. We're seeing people puffing their lips and puffing their whatever it is and downsizing their noses. It's like, wait a minute, you've got a beautiful nose. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created you this way. But then it's all about changing the creation. It's all about changing the creation because it's the appearance, it's the outside that they had learned to focus on and not the inside. So what do they end up? Well, they end up going into different forms of masakh. And right now we're seeing people actually claiming that they identify as dogs. Oh, well, this is real. Identifying as dogs. How did we get that low? Identifying as dogs. And a teacher in UK was laid off from her teaching position because she was trying to educate that the students that identified as cats and dogs is nothing but a hoax. This is not right. This can't be real. She was considered of being intolerant to people's choices. What on earth is going on? That she was intolerant of people's and her children or the students' choices. This is how low we can get. If you can start and accept to change the fact that this person is male and wanted to identify as something else, or this person is a female, wanted to identify as a male, and you wanted to basically go against reality, you're going to find yourself going down the drain and not recognizing the realities, and you're going to find yourself hitting against a wall. And guess what? It's going to be an endless sinkhole. That's what's happening right now. And we're going to see more and more of that. People identifying, who knows, maybe a person would identify as a tree, and here we go. You just need to stand right there. Just wonder how they want to be food. And it's like, this is real. This is al-khasf and al-masakh without us recognizing al-khasf, and where certain things, maybe it's hail, maybe it's things that are maybe falling from the skies, or who knows what it is. But that's why part of that, there is actually a hadith that talked about, we're going to talk about it later on, which is a dukhan. What is it, dukhan? Dukhan actually means smoke. الدخان وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته حيا الله ضحى حلت البركة حلت البركة وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله ربي يحفظها حلت البركة وأهل تونس كلهم الحمد لله أهل تونس كلهم على راسنا من فوق يا حيا الله يا هلا يا هلا يا هلا ده بس يا حيا ربي يحفظك oh, you have to sit down right now. Yeah. Where were we? With Duha. It's been a while, Duha. Yeah. Good to see you. Yeah. All right. Where were Dukhan? Good job. All right. So with Dukhan, in the beginning, they will actually think a Dukhan is just a change in the environment. They will consider it as a natural disaster. All right, they'll consider it as a natural disaster. Hey, things are changing. But then what they won't recognize, listen to this, what they won't recognize is that the dukhan will later, of course, when you're having extreme smoke and worldwide smoke where these people are not capable of breathing, people are basically not capable of doing their daily function. You know, remember how COVID, we were supposed to be wearing masks and it was like, it was really disrupting our breathing. It was just really, really boring. Remember how we were not capable of going even out unless you had a reason, quarantine and people fighting over toilet papers. Remember all of that? That was, you know, people fighting over the toilet paper. That was really the strangest thing. But all right. And you all remember that, right? Guess what? One day you're going to start talking about it. Of course, we've got more teenagers than anything else. You're going to start talking about it with the other generation, and they're going to start looking at you like, what are you talking about? And that's the same thing, how we will talk about the things that happened during our time, and you guys are looking at us like, whatever. You'll talk about it one day. People were fighting over toilet paper. Everybody was wearing masks. We were not allowed to get out, and we were not allowed to even go anywhere. And the media was talking about it. And yeah, one person that had COVID entered this Target, and everybody's going for a checkup because this person. And then in North Korea was just the most crazy thing. And where if you had a high temperature, you're killed on the spot. That was just unbelievable. Anyhow, when we talk about idukhan, where it is going to be not something similar, but definitely something a lot more dangerous, where everyone would recognize هذا عذاب أليم. This is just a magnificent torture. This is a magnificent torment where it's going to be filling all the, of course, the atmosphere, the Earth atmosphere, or who knows how far it will be, but it will be definitely changing the ecosystem. It would definitely be very harmful to the point that people will consider that this is far beyond than what we could actually handle. Will they be having trouble breathing? Well, absolutely. Will they be having trouble seeing? Absolutely. When we're talking about dukhan, we're seeing that this is involving everyone. So what will affect the dukhan? Are we going to be changing things on Earth? Well, here's one thing. When you look at the different hadith that speak about the change in the alteration in the ecosystem on Earth, or even in the universe, you would see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was actually telling us of a lot of the different changes that people will try to do, not only on Earth or for the planet Earth, but a lot of different changes even in the fitrah. In the fitra. Wait a minute, what is the fitra? The fitra is the natural creation that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created you in. The natural way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created you in. the natural way in where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created you in certain capabilities or certain abilities. Today I was reading an article, a really interesting article. I actually shared it on the forum. A very interesting article in where it was actually talking about how the younger generation is right now, hey, we're getting more numbers of even younger generation saying that they are actually seeking antidepressants. Now, here's one thing. When you look at depression, all right, depression usually is a result of trauma, a result of something dangerous. And that's when a person might have been going through all these different situations in where it required an external, let's call it an external uh, interference to help the person cope. But what we're seeing is that different pharmaceutical companies are right now encouraging younger generations to actually take antidepressant, mental health medications, and so forth in order to increase their sales for such products. Now, one thing is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had equipped you with certain sensors. These sensors are to actually help you change and improve in your life. So what does that mean? Let's say, for example, we're seeing somebody, la samhallah, God forbid, somebody come in with a gun. La samhallah. La samhallah. Oh, it happened when I was in Masjid al-Aqsa. So it's really scary. But for a mu'min, they know that no matter how scary it is, at the end of the day, if you are killed, you're a shaheed. All right? But look at this. A believer, even when it comes to death, they will stand up with courage. They'll know maktub. All right? Listen. Let's just assume someone comes in with a gun. What are you going to do? You're going to run. You're going to probably maybe even run at the perpetrator in order to save the rest. Disarm them. Maybe. Is that what you would do?
I mean, no,
Kill them. Okay. What would you do? Raise your voice because I could barely hear you. I mean, that doesn't seem like it's going to scare away a perpetrator. So
if there was a person and they got shot once, if I were there, I would act like I'm dead so they don't shoot anymore.
well, okay, that's one way. You see, there are different levels of how people might react to different dangers. Some will think of protecting themselves. Others will actually think of protecting the rest. Now, that's a higher level. I don't necessarily think or demand that everybody would think in a hero's mentality. Those are really rare people, right? But some people will go that far, even if their life is actually put at target. Now, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had equipped you with is this adrenaline. If you feel in danger, you'll actually have the capacity to work more than what you actually expected. So Zaina might actually be the person that didn't know, but her adrenaline worked really strong. And then she was the one that decided to probably carry a chair or maybe carry a desk or probably break a door and actually slam it at the person. You never know. So here's the thing, is that feeling of fear, feeling of guilt, feeling of probably that you have to react in a certain way. Please, the younger generation, pay attention to this. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had given you. in order to to equip you with the powers later on when you grow up. So when you feel fear, right now you're feeling the fear, but the more you expose yourself to fear, the more likely you are to understand how to evaluate fear and get stronger. And that's why you become more courageous. That's why even in the army, they would expose them to different circumstances, whether we're talking about bombing, whether we're talking about probably, different situations of outworking and working hard in the army, jumping, fire, all these different things, or even pepper spray into their eyes, all of that. Why? Because the more you're exposed to it, the stronger your body becomes in facing such dilemmas or facing such circumstances. So things like fear, things like guilt, guilt, it's not, I felt guilty bad enough, I'll continue, it's nothing to worry about. No. Guilt is actually one thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put within you as part of your fitrah. Even cats will feel guilty. Even dogs will feel guilty. Even animals might actually feel guilty. That's why if you were to actually put a tray of food for a cat, if it recognizes that you put it for it, it recognizes that you put it for it, it will come, and yes, it will stay on the lookout to make sure that it wasn't some kind of a trap, but it will come and eat. But if it knows that it's not for it, it will grab it and run away. Even animals, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that وما من طائر وما من دابة في الأرض ولا طائر يطير بجناحيه إلا أمثالكم. Dabba, animals, or even whether we're talking about animals or whether we're talking about birds, they're أمثالكم. They're exactly similar to how we are as human beings. Now, when we look at that, whether we're speaking about guilt, feeling guilty is one way of teaching us, and let's call it supporting us with, because feeling guilty is not a good feeling. It's not don't be in search of a pill to take it away, or someone to pat on your back that you're okay, what you did wasn't wrong. Feeling guilty is what will motivate you next time to not do it again. It's this inner medication, this inner treatment to treat you from doing this wrong behavior again. You felt it felt bad, it felt disgusting. Well, good. Now that you remember what it felt like, don't do it again. When we're looking at trauma, yes, some people might actually need an external force to help them cope with trauma, but generally speaking, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not leave you with all those scoping skills and all those coping powers, but He actually gave you those coping powers that are inside. Search for the coping power. My father died. My mother went through this. My son, I lost my son, etc. Remember, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala actually tells you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells you on that He is the one that you would turn to. If you need someone to give you this support, there's no better support than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why there's no better support than dhikr. It's all about you changing your mindset from looking at the trauma to seeing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala lahu maqalidu samawati wal ard. That He's the one that is in control of all the different forces in the world. I shouldn't necessarily be feeling all the trauma, that because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one that is the force behind all of that. So therefore, you would recognize that nothing will necessarily be the way that it is, that you see it right now, and that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one to actually control all of it. Now that's why in our generation, we're seeing many, it's like, oh, they're going through a stress, let me take a pill. Overweight, let me take a pill. No, it's working out. If you're going through stress, well, it's reaching out with dhikr. When it say that Fatima, she complained, hey, the Prophet was getting a lot of booties in the war and from the war. She complained, maybe I can get a maid. The Prophet actually went to them and said, he could have actually hired or given them a maid, but he told her at night, he said, no, I'll tell you of something that will be better for you than getting a khadim, than getting a maid. When you sleep, before you sleep, say subhanallah 33 times, say alhamdulillah 33 times, and say Allahu Akbar 34 times. That will be better for you. What was the Prophet? He could have actually just got her a maid and all set. But the Prophet, for his own daughter, he wanted to tell her, listen, I don't want you looking at the materialistic things. I want you to understand that the true power is really by you on the inside connecting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Don't depend on the people. Don't depend on those materialistic causes that people are focused on. I want you to remember that you've got the power. But the power, you don't have it just because you've got it where you depend on yourself. It's not, I believe in myself. No, it's, I believe in Allah. Believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and he'll give you the power. That's what it is. It's not believing in yourself. It's believing in Allah. He was redirecting her focus, redirecting how she understands the world's function, redirecting how she understands potentials. Listen to this. Redirecting how she understands potentials. This is Muhammad ibn Abdullah redirecting his own daughter on how to see different matters. Instead of thinking that it's a pill that's going to change your situation, or it's a pill that's going to change. And by the way, 65% of those that take medications, those kind of mental health medications, are actually women and young girls. Girls are more likely to take those medications than boys, because we tend to always search for, let me just give me a pill. Not, well, what should I do? What do I need to change? We let's call it, what is the word that I could use, but exaggerate our feelings sometimes, create a drama about our feelings, and we just scrutinize our feelings to make them too big, when in reality, no, it's a phase that's just going to train you on how to face different situations when you start living and reaching the real matters. So right now, it's just teaching you how to become mature. It's your body. It's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala creating this in your body to get you stronger when the real things occur, on how to face them and not how to surrender to them. So different feelings that you get, even when you're talking about trauma, the trauma that you go through is going to get you stronger. That's why if you actually look at a lot of the different people that are probably the best scientists, the best leaders, the best, etc., most of them went through either a death of a parent, the divorce of a parent, or probably an illness, or who knows what disability. Most of them went through something more, or extreme poverty. Most of them went through something that is extremely dire, but it will either break you or make you. Who decides? Yes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decides, but you make the decision on what you want to do. You decide if the situation that is happening to you, you decide that, oh, it's basically attacking me. And studies actually say you are more likely to face a trauma and you need therapy and all of that stuff and etc. And you decided that that's what you are part of. You decided to be a number there. You made the decision to be a number there. You made the decision. You can make the decision that no, I want to be part of the numbers that will make. And by the way, even for therapists, I don't want to undermine the work that they do, but I think it's exaggerated.
Allahu Akbar,
Sorry.
Allahu Akbar.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. It's exaggerated.
Allahu Akbar,
This is the best
Allahu
therapy.
Akbar. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر، الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
All right, let's continue really quick, inshallah. So when we actually, by the way, this is not to undermine, but I really think that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you a lot of those coping skills if you would turn to dhikr. Because wala dhikrullahi akbar. Doing the dhikr is your way of giving the best therapy. But right now it's made to seem like, oh, everybody has to have a therapist. Are you serious?
Yeah.
Everybody has to have a therapist? No, your therapist is on the inside. Uqsim billah al-azim, they made us all, it's like you have to have a therapist just like you would have a primary doctor.
Yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah.
This is ridiculous.
And if you don't, you're like متخلف,
Exactly.
You don't believe in it.
It's this new, you know what it is? It's trying to replace what Salatul Jumu'ah, what the religious scholars were doing, what the scholars were doing. It's really to replace, even in all religions, it's to replace what religion used to do within the society in giving people the inspiration, the hope, the power, because that's what religions are all about. All religions are all about that, by the way. All religions are all about that. But the new atheist way is to exterminate and totally leave religion and the idea of God and replacing it with a new priest called therapist. Uqsam billah al-azim, it's a new priest called therapist. And guess what? A lot of those therapists, even the Muslim therapists, most of them, not all, but most of them have absorbed the Western philosophy and the Western agenda, and then would give it to us recycled, but would give us this recycled Western liberal individualist type of behavior, and introduce it to us as if it is what science has proven. What science has proven. It's like, seriously. It's giving us another alternative. All right, ظهور الكاسيات العاريات. We talked about the الكاسيات العاريات, didn't we? We did. Okay. صدق رؤيا المؤمن. شهادة الزور. شهادة الزور is really false witnessing. كتمان شهادة الحق. And hiding the real witness. That's going to be, what is the hiding the real witness? Let's say I saw Fadwa giving Ayan $20,000. So I'll say, well, I don't want to get myself in trouble, and I won't say the real thing. It's like it doesn't mind me, it doesn't hurt me. I've got nothing to do with this. Who cares? And I'll just stay silent about it. This is kitman shahadat al-haq. Now, if you know the truth, stand up for it. If you are a witness and you know something is happening, you have to stand up. If you cannot change the situation, at least say al-haq. At least say al-haq. At least be a witness for haq. Don't stay silent. Yes, go
Is
ahead.
that a matter of halal or haram, or is that a matter of standing up for it?
So shahadat al-haq, it's more of you standing up for the truth. You recognize
So if you don't, it's not
whether it's people's rights or whether it's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's rights, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's principles. So both. People are afraid to say the truth because they're living one that it's all about, if it doesn't relate to me, if it doesn't harm me directly, so I should be just out. And this becomes within the individual society. It's all about, well, if it's not harming me, it's not my business. Therefore, I should stay out.
Well, they ask you about it, Sister Aisha, not like nobody like asked you to say the shahada.
If you know the truth and you were a witness there, ولا تكتموا الشهادة. Don't hide the shahada. If you are a witness that this happened, say it.
Tell me that, it will leave more problem than solve it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah. It's gonna keep
Say
it
al-haq.
going.
Say al-haq. If you know somebody is abused and somebody is a victim, say al-haq. Say al-haq. Say al-haq.
No, if you choose just to say nothing, just to avoid, for example, sometimes like putting
Really
in
no
families,
problem, yeah.
like between the family members, the haq, but you still choose just to be.
If you are a witness that, yes, I saw this, say, I had seen that Fadwa gave that girl $15,000.
Even
say
if
it.
Might cause a fitna, like,
Even if it might cause a fitna, it's her haq. It's her haq. Yes, I saw her. I was there when she gave her $15,000. Say it. I was there. I seen it. Say it. Say it. You might get an opposition. لكن نصرة المظلوم انصر أخاك ظالما أو مظلوما. You have to support your Muslim brother or sister, whether they are oppressed or whether they're oppressors. If they're oppressors, you prevent them from oppression. If they're oppressed, say al-haq. No, I saw that there were $15,000 that were given to her, or whatever it is. Say al-haq. Say al-haq. Unless we're talking about the ird, chastity, and involves rape and molestation, etc., then we've got a different detail. We'll get into different details because that involves needing more witnesses. That involves a number of different things. So that's a whole different category. That's a whole different category because even in law, that's a whole different category. Why? Because such things are really hard to prove. They don't usually happen in public. They're hard to prove. Even in Islam, there were certain things that needed more than one witness. Anyhow, let's continue. كثرة النساء. This one is probably the most baffling to me. This is, Yusuf, this one is actually the most baffling to me. You know why? But because it actually, listen to this, because this hadith actually speaks about that there's going to be statistics, there are going to be statistics where women are going to be outnumbering men by far, to the point that for every 50 women, there would be one man. The ratio is extremely baffling. Where are the men? What's going to happen to the man? Why? What will happen? Now, one thing, the hadith actually says that for 50 women, there's going to be one man, little qayyim al-qayyim. So is it that we're talking about men losing their masculinity? Al-qayyim, al-qawama, that men will stop little by little acting with their masculinity? Is that what it is? Because the hadith, there's really a lot to see in it. But what was that? It's an authentic hadith. It's an authentic hadith. So what's going to happen? Are men going to be demasculinized with all this feminism things? Or is this something that no, that there's going to happen some kind of a, I don't know, some kind of a natural cause in where it's going to affect a lot of the XX chromosome? I have no idea.
I think it's all of the above. You see all of
Who knows what it is? But when you look at the hadith and where it's talking about lil qayyim al wahid, then it actually makes us question, is there such a thing in where we are seeing a society or the normalization of demasculizing men? That's the word, demasculizing men. There was an interesting study that I came across, but I'm not a biologist to actually see whether it's talking about that there's certain genetic things. Go ahead, maybe you want to talk about it. Go ahead. Speak louder, Samia.
There was a study done on how men's testosterone levels have recently, and combined with the culture of feminism and stuff like that, it's just like you can see all these men walking around wanting to act.
Exactly. The levels of testosterone is actually going down. Is that another reason? So at the end of the day, is that we're going to be seeing more of that demasculization taking place. And when we see al-qayyim, what does it mean to actually act masculine? I did actually do a lecture on what does it mean to be masculine? What is manhood? So you can go to that lecture, and what is manhood and what does a man do? What is he responsible for? What does it mean to be in power? What does it mean to be a wali and in authority? And right now, there is this trend. Please pay attention to this one. There is this trend which the feminists are trying to, I would say, spread, which is the word patriarchy. The word patriarchy. What was that? What does it mean? Fair enough. So patriarchy actually comes from the word, patriot. Well, no, it actually comes from the word, the archy part means power, all right? And then you've got the patri is basically meaning father or male. So it's the male authority. But here's one thing, is that the male authority, that was actually something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had told us of, that there is a male authority, which is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, الرجال قوامون على النساء. Literally said, men are قوامون. The word قوامون is basically to tell you that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had created the masculinity And part of it is to act in authority, is to act in responsibility, is to act in power, is to act in leadership. But patriarchy is a derogatory term and a derogatory way of making qawama be as if it is nothing but acting in a way where the male is just trying to take away the female's rights. So this is what patriarchy is presented as. It's presented that it is nothing but a negative, and the word that they always like to use is narcissist. That it's a narcissist way, a narcissist male somehow coming in to take away the power of women. And this is actually that kathratun nisa.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, La ilaha illallah.
We'll come back and show you.